Hey, y'all. In today's episode, we talked to Jesse Prejean, a spiritual coach, teacher, and psychic medium. We talked about highly sensitive people and empaths and how he teaches and guides people with those sensitivities, and his own journey to overcoming addiction as an empath and HSP himself. I'm your host, Lauren.
And I'm Frank.
And this is episode 24 of Clairvoyaging.
And this is a new format called a cold open. You dig?
Wayfeather Media presents Clairvoyaging.
Cold opens, huh?
What do you think about that?
Well, we've heard the people like it. Do you?
Heard it helps them not be so confused.
Put a comment in the comment box. There's no comment
In the
box.
comment box?
There's no comment box.
Write a message and put it in.
Nope, dead air. Hey, Lauren, what's going on?
Guys, how's it going? Frank, You good?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Oh, great.
You know why I'm good?
Why?
We just talked to a gent.
We absolutely did.
And I had a great time talking to him.
Yeah. His name is Jesse Prejean.
Wait, for the people, let's tell them how you spell Jesse Prejean.
Prejean. Prejean.
And Jesse is Jesse.
Yeah. We had a lot of guesses on how do you pronounce this. We were wrong on all counts.
Yeah, it turns out we're very bad at talk.
And bad at French? I don't know where that word comes from, but...
Just a reminder, everybody, we are still interested in hearing your stories if you have any. So if you have a story about some kind of energetic experience you had or experience a spirit in any kind of way, yeah, you healed somebody, they broke their leg and you mended a bone using, magic. We want to hear about it.
Yeah. If you're a magician in that kind of way.
You know what? No magicians. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. This is no, listen, I just want to make sure we're clear. If you're a magician, I love you and I will watch you on YouTube, but
just not here.
Don't send me your story. Go to our website, www.clairvoyaging.com, and go to send us a story. And there's instructions right there. And I'm so excited to hear from you. Lauren, are you excited to hear from them?
Super.
Oh my gosh.
Come on, guys.
Send it. We're a team. One team, one dream. Let's do this.
Also, we love reviews. We love shares. So it keeps us going, honestly.
Listeners, do you love hats and stickers and magnets? Well, you leave a review and you'll have all of those things.
I'm not joking. It's a good hat.
It is a good hat.
It's well stitched. It's cute.
It's an attractive.
It's cute for boys and girls.
It's a handsome hat.
It is. Get yourself one. Write a review. Share it. Send it to us. Yeah. Thanks. And we love you.
So, Jesse has a very calming energy to him.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed very much talking to him. And Lauren and I had a couple of epiphanies pretty early on in the interview based on his expertise.
Yeah. He had some great insights. Man. And we were both nodding like,
whoops.
Oh, yeah.
Oops.
Okay.
Are those? Yep. Those are emotions.
Yes. We hope you find what he says as enlightening as we did.
And we did. So, without further ado,
here is Jesse Prejean. Jesse Prejean, did I say it right?
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on Clairvoyaging. We're happy to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
So, can you tell us just a bit about yourself and what brought you to the work that you're doing now?
So, a little bit of backstory. I'm from Louisiana. And I'd always been a hypersensitive, just very sensitive child. And everyone knew that in my family. I was very emotional and just very attuned to things. And, for the longest time, I thought I was just different or something was wrong with me. And I wasn't able to navigate life like most people. But through my childhood, I had various experiences that were somewhat spiritual in nature, but I had no idea what was happening. I had no frame of reference. And it was things that happened that I kind of didn't want to talk about because I never heard other people talk about. And for me, it was more of these kind of energetic experiences where I was experiencing what I believe today, states of oneness. And I just didn't know how to comprehend that as a child. And, later on in life, once I learned meditation and all these different forms of spiritual practice, I realized that's essentially what was happening. And I was experiencing it at, from ages 5 to some 8 or something like that. And I always had this kind of just deep knowing that there was more to life as a child. I remember especially around the age 12, 13-ish or so, being in my room and knowing that there was something greater than what my physical body was, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. It was something there that I couldn't access. And later on, when I went through what we call awakening process, I started to connect the dots as far as what I was experiencing then. And, I had a framework for it. So that was childhood. I never saw ghosts or had psychic experiences up to that point. But it wasn't until later in life, until my 20s, when I started having out of body experiences that were involuntary.
Whoa.
I remember the first time. Yeah. Yeah, that was quite a shocker. In college, I was smart enough, I guess, or dumb enough to be taking chemical engineering courses because it was the hot career at the time, and it was the money making career. So I thought that's what I wanted. And I was so overwhelmed with my classwork, and it was finals. I remember it being finals week, and I had an aunt who I was close with who lived on campus. I went to LSU, and I remember being out in her front yard and I had my first mental breakdown as an adult in my early 20s.
We never forget the first one.
No, definitely not. And I think in that state of distress, it prompted my first out of body experience. That night, I stayed at my aunt's home, and I remember the moment I laid my head down to go to sleep, and I turned my head to the side and closed my eyes. And in the moment, I was floating above my body in the room, having an out of body experience. And something felt really familiar about it. I wasn't afraid. It just felt like, hey, I've done this before, but it was also, there was a curiosity about it. So that was the start of a series of involuntary out of bodies that I would have throughout my early 20s. And eventually I learned how to control these experiences and induce them through some different techniques. And I was introduced to some books that were really helpful. One in particular I'll plug because it's a great book. It's called You Forever by Lobsang Rampa. He is or was, I'm not sure if he's still alive, was a monk. And this was some practice that he explored in his lifetime and basically taught people how to, transcend the physical body and have these experiences. So,
did you the first time it happened, did you slam back into your body, or was it like, oh, time to just go back now?
Yeah, more the latter. It had this kind of dreamlike quality to it where it didn't feel intense or abrasive. And when I woke up, I just would wake up.
Yeah.
As if from coming out of a dream state.
Wow.
So it wasn't like sleep paralysis or anything like that?
No, it was very gentle. And it was always a total switch in consciousness. There was no somnambulous state where you're like kind of awake, kind of asleep. It was more, I'm in my body, I'm conscious, and then the next moment I'm out of my body, I'm conscious.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So yeah, it was truly amazing. And so when that started happening, I started exploring more with meditation and things like that. And what really kicked my gifts, I guess you could say, or my spiritual practice or path, as far as what I do now as a medium and as a spiritual coach and teacher, was I struggled with drug addiction and alcoholism in my 20s, mid 20s. It kind of took a turn, and life got really difficult. I made it difficult, and coming out of that and starting to heal was when it started to trigger awakening for me. And this is actually a really common thing for people who are empathic and people who are highly sensitive and intuitive, is that, the struggle of the world is so overwhelming that we find a coping mechanism to numb out, because we don't have the tools or resources. And I had no tools or resources growing up to know how to manage that. So, and I had to figure things out on my own. But I had a series of energetic shifts that happened when I first decided to get clean. And I was in a treatment facility in South Austin. And this was back in 2011. And during my stay at the treatment center, I started having these, what I now know to be chakra openings. I would be feeling energy come through the crown of my head, and it would spark some subsequent opening. A couple of them that I remember distinctly that I'll never forget is having this energy just pouring through the crown. And suddenly, and this is the best way I describe it, if someone took a fire hose and hooked it up to the back of your upper torso and just cranked it on and let that blast through the front of your chest. Like, I had this heart chakra opening that was
that's very
so
intense,
so profound. Yeah. It was a flood of energy, and, I hit the ground. It was just a really beautiful, powerful experience. And I believe I was in that moment connecting to this source of unconditional love and really feeling it in my vessel for the first time in my life. And the second experience that really is what led me to start the path of, becoming a healer, a psychic medium, and all these things. It started the same way. I was having this flood of energy come through my crown, and I decided to go for a walk alone on the property. It was a really beautiful property, beautiful landscape, a lot of space to explore. And as I'm just kind of cruising around, I describe this one as being plugged into an electrical socket.
Oh God.
Not in a painful way, but an electrifying way.
Yeah.
I felt a surge of energy come through my body, but not only could I feel it in my body, I could feel it at a distance, maybe several feet outside and around my body. And what I believed I was experiencing was feeling energy moving through my auric field and coming through my body. And as this is happening, another experience occurs where I start to feel this electric current of energy begin to emerge from the palms of my hands. And so that was a startling experience that I just kind of let it happen. And the one thing that validated and solidified that experience for me was I went into one of my roommates at the treatment center, and he was like a West Texas guy, a very, cowboy country guy.
Yeah.
And I remember him sitting at a desk writing, and I walked in, and my face must have looked crazy because I was blown away. And I said, "Hey, can I share something with you for a second?" He said, "Sure." I said, well, hold your hands out, hold your palms open. And when he did, I put my palms over his, and we just looked at each other in amazement. And he says to me, "What the hell are you doing?" And I said, "I don't know." But we were immersed in this energy, and he was clearly feeling it as well. So it made me feel like I wasn't crazy, something profound was happening.
Wow.
So that's what kicked it off. And Reiki was the first thing because I was like, there's energy coming out of my hands. Like, and I was looking for answers.
What do I do with this?
So Reiki was the first stop. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I needed to figure out how to channel it. So yeah, that's where it all began. And it's an experience I love to remember because it keeps me connected to what I'm doing.
Yeah. What a story. That's so cool.
So Reiki, and then where did that progress to? Where are you at today?
Where am I at today?
You do like mediumship readings and stuff too, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of a jack of all trades when it comes to, the healing arts is what I call it, metaphysical arts. Once I started working with Reiki, I became attuned to Reiki very shortly after, leaving the treatment center. And when I started using Reiki, that's when I started to have psychic experiences.
Oh, wow.
And that just kind of opened the doors, which from what I was taught back then is that when you start to use these healing tools or these energetic tools, that it can awaken more abilities. And it did exactly that for me. Yeah.
Jesse, this is the first time I've had a full page of notes before I've even asked a question yet. So.
Cool. We got a lot to work with.
Yeah. When you started unlocking abilities, was your family like, well, of course, like no surprise? Or was it like, oh, I don't know, Jesse, like how was that received?
That's a good question. And in all honesty, I always had felt kind of disconnect from my family because I was so different. And a lot of my growing into adulthood, I still kind of maintained a distance because of a lot of traumas and a lot of experiences in childhood that I wasn't able to navigate yet. And so when I had this experience, I was connected with some family members. My aunt, who I spoke about from college, when I was in college, she was someone who already had interest in these things. I think she was a Reiki, attuned to Reiki at that point. So she was someone who was like, cool, awesome, I get it. But other people in my family who didn't have much of an understanding just kind of kept silent.
Yeah,
I knew who I could talk to about it and who I couldn't. But what's funny now is I have some family members who, more recently are awakening to these things, and that's kind of cool to watch.
Coming to you.
Side too. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's always an aunt, though. Yeah. There's always an aunt ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Just ready to be like, I've been waiting.
Yeah, I've got one.
Yeah, Cece's always ready for
Cece's
you.
ready to go. So when you were younger then, how did your sensitivities manifest? Did you have like some negativity that you had to work through yourself, or what was going on with you?
What I understand today about people who are empaths or highly sensitive is that our nervous systems are different. And we come into this world with a more highly attuned nervous system. So there's this hypervigilance that develops in childhood that subsequently can feel like trauma, even if there's lack of nurturing or a lack of emotional connection or stability or things, is that because we're so highly attuned, things that might not feel traumatic to your average Joe are traumatizing to the sensitive nervous system. So, and I didn't know that was happening. I was just being me.
Yeah. Two empaths here, both like, aha.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a lot of it. And, I was a very isolating kind of child. I just liked to be by myself. And so I had trouble connecting with people as I got older. And I had, divorce, and that's really traumatic. I was about 13, and just a lot of things that accumulated that I had no frame of reference for, even through, traditional therapy. It wasn't until I met a shaman and someone who understood more of the nature of being a sensitive and being an empath, that I could start healing my stuff. And it's still ongoing.
That's something I'm definitely late to the game on.
Well, I mean, but that's part of this podcast.
Sure,
like we started it with like, one, how do we develop our stuff? And then also part of this process has been like some awakening, some healing, some realizations.
Yeah.
This is it's our clear voyage.
Let me ask you this real quick. What is your definition, the difference between an empath and a highly sensitive person?
Well, I think they're in some ways both one and the same. But I think that empath is someone who naturally needs to attune to their environment, or naturally can attune to their environment to create safety, right? I think it's a trauma response unknowingly, right? Or developed, but at the same time, there's a gift in it, because we learn through the hypervigilance to attune to emotions and things in our environment so well that kind of can cause trouble. But at the same time, we also are connected to our environment in a way that most people aren't. So we can feel and sense and connect to things that energetically and have awareness of, that in that respect is sort of a gift, right? So growing up that way and stepping into it, I kind of had to separate those things and look at what was running my hypervigilance and trauma as an empath and highly sensitive person, or what's my intuitive spiritual ability. And with highly sensitive person, they may not necessarily have that heightened level of empathy to build that sort of connection to their surroundings, but they're aware. There's that hypersensitivity to the surroundings that is influencing. Yeah, I don't know.
No one's put it this way before.
No, I like it.
That's just like adapting to your environment. I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And it is a lot of people, I hear in the HSP community, the empath community, it's a gift and a curse. And I think that's kind of what they mean by that. At least that's my experience of it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
What environments you choose to participate in could define whether it's a gift or a curse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah.
Very good point. Mm-hmm.
When I'm editing this later, I'm gonna have to rewind the definition.
Yeah.
Because really think about that, because I feel like that would be very helpful to me. I missed that along the way, and I think that would have helped me in multiple situations.
Same.
Lauren and I have a tendency to be surrounded by very intense people, and we love them. Lots of Geminis and
Capricorns.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always just like, love them to death, can sometimes be overstimulated ourselves, and then we get like an emotion hangover or something. I don't know what it is, like over the next couple of days.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah.
I have one of my really good friends is a Gemini and is very intense. He's gotten older, it's toned down some, but it really was one of those relationships where I had to figure out where my energetic boundaries were in that, because it was a lot of times overstimulating.
Yeah. Yeah. Our daughter's a Capricorn. Both of our dads are Gemini.
Yeah. My brother's a Capricorn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Love those. Love them all.
They're big energies. We love them. Love them to death. Love you guys.
Love you guys. Okay. At what point did you decide to walk away from chemical engineering and do this? Because that's a big shift.
Yeah.
Well, once I started having to pay out of pocket for college, that was when I said, I'm done. I do have a claim to fame, so to speak, in the science community. So I decided to get out of engineering and move towards natural sciences. And so I started studying as a microbiologist instead. And that gave me an opportunity to work in the some of the labs at LSU, and I worked in a genetics research lab, and I worked with a professor, Dr. Brumfield is his name, and we did a study in ornithology. After I moved to Austin and everything, I get an email from him and says our paper is actually published in Nature Journal. So,
oh my gosh,
I'm co-authored in Nature Journal as a result of that part of my life.
That's so cool.
That's amazing.
It wasn't all for nothing.
Yeah. So then we had to pay for college, and all the fun was gone. So now,
pretty much, and yeah, you're right.
And
at that time, I was looking to not take life so seriously too. So I think that was part of. I wanted to play music. I was a drummer. I still play music for myself these days. But
we're musicians.
I have a drum kit right here. Here.
We've met.
I got a very muted cymbal. That's awesome, man. Did you ever put out any like albums or anything?
When I was in Louisiana, I guess in my 20s, put out some demos. You know, like I played in an alternative rock band for like 5 years, and nothing really took off. The only thing I ever put out on an album was I ended up making a guided meditation album.
Oh, what's that called?
It's called Journey to the Healer Within.
Oh.
You can find it on Spotify. I also have it on Bandcamp as well.
Cool.
Did you find that like the path of like alcohol and drugs was more of trying to drown out the sensitivity and like quiet things, or just like a product of your environment?
I'd say a bit of both. I mean, I think anywhere you go, and especially in college towns and college age, there's going to be a lot of drinking.
Yeah.
Louisiana is pretty known for alcohol being a big part of the culture, Cajun Creole culture. So I think, that was part of it. But, once I realized how self-soothing it was like, oh, that's the answer. That's how I kind of tone this down. And I think that's what eventually triggered me into, creating that as a cycle, a pattern, a very strongly developed pattern.
Yeah. Because we've talked to some like mediums who have said like, the sensitivities that people or kids or teens or whatever feel, if they repress it, sometimes it leads them to the path of like alcoholism or drug abuse or whatever. So yeah,
100%. Yeah. And it seems also, I share the same path, the same story as a lot, even other mediums and psychics I've worked with have gone through that. And when they come out of it is when things awaken, like they really kind of step into their gifts. So it can be kind of a triggering or a catalyst for that spiritual awakening or that awakening to sensitivity in a new way.
I'm just curious about this. Like when you did realize that you're on your path with like the awakening, and you suddenly, was it a sudden like, oh, I can connect with spirits also? Like, was there a scary part of that, or just like hey, that's something?
Yeah, great question. So I took a break from my Reiki practice for a couple of years, and I came back to it in 2016. And at that time, I, was taking clients, and I had, I think, 3 clients come in for Reiki sessions back to back, like within a few weeks. And each one of those sessions I had moments where I started to sense and see and feel spirit in the room during the session. And having had some psychic development at the time, I thought, well, that's odd. There's probably something to this, or I'm just crazy, right? What ended up happening was the first time I was sensing a spirit in the room with the client on the table, I was getting some very specific information. And I thought maybe that's at least worth it to share what I'm experiencing with the client.
Yeah.
And so after the session, I shared what I was seeing, sensing, and feeling about this spirit in the room. And they said, yeah, I mean, everything you're sharing with me. And I said, oh, well, okay. So there's something to this. But
Yeah.
the funny part is, and I think sometimes spirit will lead us to that, is the next two sessions back to back, I had very similar experience. And two of them were almost identical type spirits. Like it was just a very strange synchronistic encounter. And I did the same thing, with the follow up, the other client. I just shared what I was experiencing and it was all validated. So at that time, I said, okay, clearly there's a pattern here and something's happening. So then I developed as a medium after that. There was a medium in my close circle of friends. And so she had done a lot of development and was really on the path to mediumship. And at that time was doing courses. And so it worked out. So I started studying then.
I was going to ask if you had someone who held your hand through some of those stages.
Yeah, definitely. Having a mentor and taking classes was really helped me just to really ground out my mediumship, because at first, because it opened more as I continued to focus on this ability. And I was having just a lot of bizarre experiences and encounters, and it was just a lot.
Yeah.
And I needed help trying to navigate this. And so, things are more at this point, I've developed to a place where it's just kind of a thing now. And, I'm not having these overwhelming experiences and seeing spirits and all that. So
when you want to see spirit, are you able to just flip that on, or how does that work?
Well, these days I'm not just like, hey, I want to see.
It's not your thing. It's not your thing. I would imagine it's not for everybody. I always talk about that specifically because that's the most tangible thing.
Yeah.
I also understand that there's really no benefit in seeing.
Do you turn on your spirit flips? Do you switch?
Yeah.
Listen, I grew up with Ghostbusters, so I'm always just like, but can you see them?
Is Slimer in the room?
I was like that for a while.
Yeah.
I was, I guess, a voyeur of ghosts.
Yeah.
And it's more now it's a skill set that I use when people need help. And so that's when I turn that on. If someone wants a mediumship sitting, and I'll turn it on. Or if I'm in session with maybe a Reiki client or even some of my coaching clients, every now and again, I'll get a strong, sense that someone's there, and I'll acknowledge that, but it's not, that doesn't happen as often as it used to.
That makes sense. I've heard it's distracting.
Yeah.
Some people have a problem with it.
Yeah.
Some people, and like I said, it was very distracting for a while.
Yeah.
But I guess, I've learned to control it. Setting boundaries, if you haven't heard that, that's the one thing you want to start doing. If you struggle with dealing with that distraction from spirit, hey, no, you stay over there. If you want to talk to me, we'll choose another time to do it, or have someone
or
have
not.
the person you want me to talk to, have them come to me.
Oh yeah. It's nice that there's so many people that are teaching mediumship now.
Yeah.
Especially if it's something that just kind of comes on quick and you're like, what do I do with this? I mean, these things they can send people to the psych ward, if you really don't have a handle on this. And
right.
Yeah, having access, and there's Arthur Findlay College, which is one of the coolest things in the world.
You went there?
As far as I didn't physically go, but I've studied online with them.
You do coaching for, do you teach mediumship, or is it coaching for intuition development? Are they the same? I don't know.
Yeah. So I do mentoring and coaching. What it seems to be is kind of a combination of things. So I learned years ago that a lot of the work I'd been doing on myself and healing and healing through my mediumship journey and healing through these journeys, that I had a lot of experience to start teaching and helping others from. And so I started offering coaching services and attracting people who needed my help, in particular, highly sensitive people, empaths, and people who may have had similar struggles that I've had. And so a lot of those people in my coaching, I'm able to kind of help them heal and grow and kind of transform some of the overwhelm patterns and, the stuff we deal with as sensitives. And part of that is like some of them really come into their gifts or start to come into their gifts. And so we get to do both. I have a client I've been working with for quite a while now that I've been doing coaching and mentoring with, and she's a fantastic tarot reader and medium now.
Whoa.
And when we started, she was a struggling empath,
Oh my gosh,
and
that's so cool.
Thanks. Yeah, we've been able to really resolve and clear a lot of that kind of trauma stuff and, all those sensitivity things, that the patterns that we pick up. And at the same time, get her, gifts rolling. And it's pretty cool to watch. So I do both.
What a success.
And it
cool.
really just, it depends on the client, what their needs are. But I offer it all. I'm like, everything I got, you want to come work with me, you can pick from everything I've got in me. So.
What a cool dude. You're a cool dude. Did you know that?
I've heard that before.
Also, like for your history and everything you've like not only been through, but overcome, like you come off as extremely well adjusted, which I could imagine that's not always the case.
No. It's nice to hear that.
Yeah.
Because in my head, I think I'm still not very well adjusted.
Isn't that the case, though?
You've got it, though. You got it.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
You picked me on a good day. I'll just say that.
All right. The majority of your clients, is it something that you tend to lean into more for teaching, or is it really just across the board? I know you said you're a jack of all trades and whatever people need, you just like adjust to them.
One thing that I've not stopped teaching regularly is energy healing. And I like to go back to that moment or those moments I had, in the treatment center when I had these energetic awakenings to
the Palpatine hands, Emperor Palpatine hands. Yeah.
Yeah.
As Jesse calls it frequently.
Yeah. You always call it that.
Palpatine. Sorry.
So that's okay. It was kind of that feels like that's been a consistent part of my calling through Spirit, is to offer that tool, because it was life-changing for me, and it still is when I get to work with people. And I love teaching more than practicing, and honestly, even though I do both, because the more I teach, the more I understand and learn about what I've been working with for years, over 14 years now.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you if, like, in your practice, if there are any trends that you see with all this stuff, and the presumed interconnectedness of all things. I always wonder if everyone at this phase of time needs something specific.
Are you asking?
I think I am asking, yeah.
Was that a question?
Yeah, that was a question. My questions come in the form of statements.
So if I got this right, is there some sort of theme that we're all struggling with?
Yeah.
That I know about.
Yeah. Well, that was very concise. Yeah. You should have a podcast.
Yeah. That's not where I belong, I promise you. I'd say, there is a common thread of challenge with, I think, most people in the world, is that the world we've been taught is the world we ought to live in. Isn't the world you as individuals should be living in? And I don't mean go to another planet, but like, who are you as a individual? What excites you about life? What do you feel like you're here to do outside of the framework of the Western culture, in particularly? And how do you create that for yourself? I feel like a lot of the struggle is there's a dissonance between who we really are and who we're taught to believe we are. That seems to be a common thread.
Yeah. Lauren and I talk about that all the time, especially in this phase right now. I'm technically between money-making jobs. I'm always finding myself busy and doing, editing and podcasting and stuff like that. And Lauren's holding down the fort, but also like in this time when I've personally, this resonates with me, what you're saying, because even as a teenager, like the world of the confines that I was supposed to operate within didn't seem right for me. And now as an adult, I'm like, I'm established now. I have a mortgage and a full-time job. And now it suddenly, with the getting into all of this stuff, it's suddenly the box is even smaller. It's smaller than it's ever been for me. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to get out of this real bad, real fast, and just try to like live authentically. And I know I'm not the only one, but so many people, I'm sure, like you're saying, like the dissonance they're experiencing internally comes from like really trying to be things that we've all been taught we should be, and it's not quite right.
Absolutely. And it's unfortunate. And I think if you do at least come to that realization for yourself, you're a lucky one. I don't know that everyone will get that opportunity to experience that in their life. And maybe they get to come back and do it again in a different way in another lifetime. But I feel like I agree, the way I grew up and everything I was taught, just so many things never felt right.
Yeah.
And I always blamed myself. And so there was a lot of internalizing these things, and, which really wears your self-worth.
Yeah.
So I've done a lot of healing and continue to do a lot of healing around that. And that's where I experience my freedom as not just a human, but especially as a sensitive, because I think part of me in that sensitivity is here to create the world I'm meant to live in, and not meaning create it so everybody can live in my world,
right,
but just so I can be here and have a good life.
Yeah.
That's all.
Do you feel that you personally have achieved that at this point in your life better than any other point?
Yeah, 100%.
You know how I know that? Because that shirt's awesome. You're obviously well adjusted, no matter what you think.
Thank you. Yeah, I think a lot of it has been because of the struggles in my life and kind of the path I've chosen that is way outside of the box. I went way on the other end of the outside of the box.
Sure.
And now I'm kind of like, okay, I'm not mad at the box. I don't resent the box. It can be there, but I can kind of be over here and still exist in and around it, and find a happy medium.
Yeah. Yeah.
Happy medium.
Happy medium. A podcast.
By Jesse Prejean.
That's awesome. Yeah. Like the box has to exist for a reason. And I know that we're in it so that we could learn from it and go through the hard things so that we can see that there's something on the other side. But the box still sucks and we don't need it all the time.
It does suck.
Yeah. No more box.
It's rough in there.
It is rough in there. It's all the gatekeeping. It's the people that like maintain the box and tell you need to be in it that makes it so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my last question is this. If you could have like one healing message to all of our listeners from what you've learned, and what would you like to get across to them?
Man.
Yeah,
Not
that's
to
a big,
put you on the spot.
Yeah,
or anything.
very
Good
basic.
God.
very basic, but a little too
What
deep.
is your healing message for the world?
Everyone is listening, Jesse.
Or
I think
a suggestion or tip for someone developing their intuition or trying to overcome sensitivities.
I can give you a bit of both.
Okay.
I think a message that kind of a deep message, maybe a healing message that is something I think about a lot is really asking myself, and ask yourself more often than not, who you really are and, what you feel like you're here to do. And it may not be this grand divine purpose, but, what really makes you feel good inside? What makes you feel like you're living your truth? And always ask, because I think it's always evolving and changing as we evolve and change. And that's something I continue to come back to. And more continues to reveal itself when I sit with that and I allow it to emerge from my being. I think that's what ultimately transforms lives. And if you can be with that and sit with that and hear that part of yourself more often. So that's my healing message.
There it is.
I mean,
for the masses.
That's a good one now.
That's a solid one.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a lesson to like allow. I always try to remember you have to allow yourself and the people around you to evolve and change and support them on that journey.
Yeah.
Like the second you, just like that we don't like the confines of society, the box, like you can also box yourself in and live in the box to the best of your ability, and then find yourself 10 years later completely miserable that you did everything right.
Yeah. Trapped in a glass cage of emotions.
Milk was a bad choice.
Great Will Ferrell references.
Yes, we've got them all day.
Yeah.
We will link all your social media things and your website and your music.
Yeah. Yeah. Give us all your plugs verbally.
Yeah,
so
like say it out loud so
the people can hear.
Yeah.
Sure. So my name is Jesse Prejean. I'm a spiritual coach, teacher, and psychic medium. My website is jesseprejean.com. I'm on Instagram at JP_intuitive_healing. I'm also on Facebook. I'm not as active on there, but come check out my Instagram.
No one is.
Yeah, it's old news now. And yeah, I have an album of guided meditations if you like guided meditation, and want to learn some kind of energetic practices while you meditate. It's called Journey to the Healer Within. You can buy a copy on Bandcamp, which gives you unlimited downloads and streaming. And it's also available on Spotify, so you can check that out. I still offer session work for psychic tarot readings, mediumship, energy healing, and what I call intuitive healing, which is along the lines of how I show up for my coaching clients. So a bit of that is like the coaching aspect of helping you really tune in and discover who you are and bring that out. But I do it in a very intuitive way. I use my gifts to support the process. So I do offer coaching long-term, 30 and 90-day programs. If you're interested in that, you can book a free consultation with me. I love to just kind of connect with people, see where they're at, and see if I can help them and how I can help them along their journey of awakening and healing. I feel like I'm here to do that in some capacity. And so I continue to offer it.
Cool.
If you're in Austin, come see me in person.
All right.
Amazing. Thank you for spending some time with us and giving us some new realizations today. Truly.
We're gonna have a powwow later, and there may be tears. I don't know.
Maybe so. And I hope there are, because it's a sign of healing and growth.
Yeah.
Jesse, thank you so much, man. We'll talk to you soon, and good luck with everything.
Sounds great. Yeah.
Thanks,
stay
Jesse.
in touch.
All right. See you, buddy.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening. Visit www.clairvoyaging.com for show notes, merch, or just to say hi. If you'd like to support our journey, visit www.buymeacoffee.com/clairvoyaging. This has been a production of Wayfeather Media.